Good night, Lowndes County, and good evening. Tonight's read is going to be Franklin is Bossy, and this is a classic Franklin story. The author is Paulette Bourgeois, illustrated by Brenda Clark. In tonight's reading, we'll encounter a word called fair. Tonight, Franklin's not being so friendly with his friend Bear, so we're going to see what it means to be fair, and what it is to be fair. To be fair means to take turns, to be equal, to share, to be kind. Even when you're playing with your friends and you don't always agree, you still have to think about being fair to each other. So we're going to see how Franklin and his friend Bear should be fair to each other. Are you ready? Let's read. Before we begin, we're going to go over the parts of the book. This is called the front of the book, the side of the spine, and this is called the back of the book. Franklin is bossy. Franklin the turtle could zip zippers and button buttons. He could count by twos and tie his shoes. He had lots of friends, and one best friend named Bear. They played tag and marbles, hopscotch and ball. But one day something awful happened. Franklin and Bear had a fight. It was a steamy summer morning. Franklin told his friends, "Let's play marbles." And they did. After a while, Franklin said, "I'm tired of marbles. Let's have a race." "You always pick the games," grumbled Bear. Franklin paid him no attention. They started to run. Bear was in the lead. Goose followed behind. Franklin saw that he was losing and cried out. "Slowest one wins the race," as he crawled across the finish line last. Uh-oh, let's stop and think. Was that fair for him to choose the game and then choose the rules after everyone had won? Was that fair, boys and girls? If you said no, that's not fair, you were absolutely right. "That's not fair," said Bear. Franklin ignored him. "I'm tired of running. Let's play baseball." Bear did not put on his mitts. He did not put on his cap. He was mad. "It's too hot. I don't want to play," said Bear. "Me either," said Beaver. "It's not too hot," said Franklin. "It's too," said Bear. "It's not," said Franklin. "I don't want to play with you, Franklin," shouted Bear. "And I don't want to play with you either," Franklin shouted back. No, were the two boys being nice to each other? No, Franklin was being super bossy, and Bear was tired of it, and so were his other friends. They are all looking really, really worried and sad. Franklin stomped all the way home. "Hmm, hmm, hmm, hmm. What's wrong?" asked his father. "There's no one to play with," answered Franklin. "Maybe your friends will come by later," said Franklin's father. "Maybe," he said. In his room, Franklin built a castle. He made a cape to be brave in. He made shields and swords and suits of armor. He drew pictures. He played house. He read stories. He even played by himself 1 whole hour. And then he didn't know what to do. So Franklin went looking for company. His friends were in the river cooling off. Are you still hot? He asked. No, they answered. Then let's play ball, said Franklin. Think his friends want to still play with him? All right, let's see if your answer was correct. Before anyone had a chance to say a word, Franklin started giving orders. Bear, you play first base. Goose and Beaver, you go to the outfield, and I'll be the pitcher. No way, shouted Bear. I don't want to play with you. You are too bossy. All of Franklin's friends nodded. Bear's right, they said. Franklin turned his back and he went home. Let's stop and think for a minute. How do you think Franklin feels? Let's look at his face again. Maybe the illustrations will help us understand how Franklin feels. This illustration shows that his head is down. He's not smiling. His head is covering his face. Maybe he feels ashamed. Boys and girls, do you think Franklin feels ashamed or does he feel happy? You said ashamed. You are absolutely right. It's not fair to be bossy. You have to take turns when you're playing games with your friends. There was no one to play with and nothing much to do. So he helped his father all afternoon. They weeded the garden and washed the floors. They made supper for Mo because he was sick. You're a good friend, Mo told Franklin's father. On the way home, Franklin asked, Dad, do you and Mo have fights? Sometimes, said Franklin's father, but we always make up. Franklin played along for another whole day. He missed Bear and all his friends, and he had lots of time to think. He would go to Bear and apologize. Franklin and Bear met on the bridge. I was going to your house, said Franklin. And I was going to your house, said Bear. I'm sorry, said Franklin. It was all my fault. No, it was my fault, said Bear. Mine, said Franklin. No, mine, said Bear. Uh-oh, here we go again. Stop! shouted Beaver, who was listening under the bridge. This is silly. Beaver slapped her tail so hard that Franklin and Bear jumped. They started to giggle. I think Beaver had enough of that fussing and fighting too. Friends, asked Franklin. Friends, said Bear. Now they finally agree on something. Beaver wanted to play baseball. Bear and Goose and Duck agreed. They were picking teams when Franklin insisted on being the pitcher again. All together, his friends shouted, No fair, Franklin. Franklin knew they were right. He couldn't always be the pitcher. It was his turn to play in the outfield. Still trying to be bossy. but he did give in, and it wasn't so bad. For although Franklin didn't catch a single ball in the outfield, he did catch lots of flies. Turtles love those flies. The end. Good night, Lowndes County. I hope you enjoyed that read about Franklin. We'll come back again with one more story on Franklin.